Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Ukraine faces one of its harshest winters amid intensified Russian attacks, with electricity and heating disrupted for millions. President Zelensky has declared a state of emergency and pressed allies for urgent military and energy support, even as US-backed peace negotiations continue. With the Ukrainian delegation now in Washington, the stakes are high, sustaining the army, protecting civilians from freezing temperatures and maintaining a morale under relentless pressure. Joining us is Yulia Sirko, MP from the Voice Party, to discuss the challenges ahead. Yulia, welcome back to TVP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Hello from Kiev, from Ukraine.
Hello, and it's good to have you. So tell us, Yulia, what is the situation like on the ground? Are people managing even basic amenities such as heat and light?
The situation is difficult, particularly in Kiev. Most probably, Kiev is the worst situation is in Kiev because it's the city with over 4 million residents, with a high residential buildings, and it's minus 20, between minus 15 and minus 20 outside Celsius. So it's a very, very, very cold weather, almost for 2 weeks, and for 2 weeks more. And in some residential districts and some residential buildings, there is no electricity for over 2 days, and the biggest problem is there is no heat. So people actually don't have +8, +10 in their apartments, and unfortunately, families with kids, women with kids, actually freezing in their apartments. So now in Kiev we are trying to restore heating. First of all, heating systems for these residential buildings without heat, and then electricity. So it's mostly by generators, by other means, but still about 100 high residential buildings are without heating and electricity. The situation tough, but I mean the morale is high, and there is no panic, no surrender as surrender mood as Putin expecting. So and clearly this is genocidal war against civilians, against kids, and against women, not on the battlefield.
Indeed, indeed. Now, Yulia, what would you like to see from the international community? What more should they and could they do to alleviate this problem?
I think it's more pressure on Putin, as always. Nothing changed. We don't see any progress in a peace deal, in a peace progress, in a peace talks. So it's also frozen mostly by Putin. So US and the European leaders probably should put more pressure on Putin in terms of sanctions, in terms of negotiations, in terms of oil, gas, shadow fleet, etc., etc. There are so many tools you can means you can put pressure on Putin, because his economy is also struggling, but more pressure, economic pressure, and more weapon for Ukraine will make it. I mean, it will be not so long struggle for Ukrainians, and it will probably put pressure on Putin to talk realistically about peace.
I understand, Yulia, and I do want to talk about the Ukrainian delegation to the US and exactly that kind of pressure in just a second. But before we get there, I was thinking more in terms of things like generators, heaters, some kind of protection against drones. What would you like to see more of in Ukraine from the international community?
It's all kind of energy equipment, which generators, fuel for generators, any kind of alternative energy the world can supply to Ukraine will be very welcome. And it's not for army. This is not military help. It's purely for humanitarian aid for people who are freezing in their apartments, in their residential buildings. So just any kind of equipment. We produced a list of energy equipment we need, and we distribute it to our embassies, and we can distribute it even openly. So I think it's all kind of energy equipment will be very, very welcome.
So if someone wants to have a look at this list, where should they look?
Probably this is a list we distribute it on a state level, but I think it's a good idea, and we will publish it on the website, maybe of Ministry of Foreign Affairs or any kind of, and I will send you a link so people can look, and if they have, they can help us with generators, people with a different kind of heat. It will be very, very useful and very, very helpful.
Understood. Now, you mentioned the military. How is the military coping with these terribly cold, low temperatures?
Military protecting front line, and they do it with their resources. With the resources we have, they are doing it very efficiently. They are keeping out Russians from Kharkiv Oblast, from Kupiansk, from occupying Pokrovsk, from occupying other cities. So, they are keeping front line, and I'm very grateful for them, because, without this power of Ukrainian army, probably Russians will do even more damage for civilians. And we saw it in Bucha, we saw it in different cities. So as soon as they can occupy territories, they are killing civilians and do genocide. So that's why strong army Ukrainian is a great power for us. So it's very cold, but still our front line and our military in a good mood, I would say, and in a high morale.
Understood. Now, let's talk about diplomacy. President Zelensky's last message about diplomacy not working at the moment seems to carry with it an element of pessimism. What do we expect to happen at this meeting that is taking place as we speak in Washington?
I think we try, as Ukrainians, we try to understand what is the real intentions of U.S. Side, of Trump's side and allies. So to understand if they are real about the peace negotiations, or it's just a big, so to say, push for Ukrainians to capitulate. So we're trying to understand if we can do something with U.S. and Europeans to stop Russians and to put them on to negotiation to the table to negotiate real peace. So that's actually and present our view how we see security guarantees, because without security guarantees you cannot talk with Russians. If we will not have a real and sustainable security guarantees, there is no sustainable peace. It's just a ceasefire for a few months, and then Russians will move again. So that's actually the mandate of our delegation, security guarantees, who will cover all destruction Russians made on Ukrainian soil, who will pay and who will be responsible for war crimes they've done on our land. So that's the discussions we had previously, and I hope we will have more constructive discussions now. But without U.S. pressure on Russian side, there is no way for the peaceful process, unfortunately, because Putin is just buying time, and he's just fooling Trump and Americans at this point of time.
Well, as you say, security guarantees are critical, but I mean that is very much step two, isn't it? I mean, step one has to be some kind of ceasefire, and as you also say, that's only going to happen if there is pressure placed on Putin by Trump. But there's little evidence that President Trump is ready to do that. He's placing more pressure on Zelensky. How can that balance be addressed, or imbalance be addressed?
Yes, we see that Trump is very, so to say, chaotic. So today is Greenland, and it's other places. So Maduro, so it's Iran. So a lot of things in the world going on. But I think if you want to reach real sustainable peace, you have to start not from these parts of the world, but most probably with Putin and his big brother Xi, because they are mostly fueling this war, and they are actually, so to say, trying to push Western borders further and further, and red lines as well. So I think that the European leaders also should be in this play, in these negotiations. You cannot negotiate a peace deal and security guarantees and ceasefire without European leaders, because they are much closer to ours, and they should have their own say in these discussions. So I think we can balance it, but honestly, with the years going on, we see that the Ukrainian army, Ukrainian military production, and joint European military production probably will be the best security guarantees, because U.S. is very chaotic in their actions, in their diplomacy, in their policies. So I mean, it could take another few years when U.S. will decide to see Europe and Ukraine, and decide to put pressure on Putin.
Understood.
We cannot wait so long.
Understood. Now, in the last minute or so that we have left, Yulia, how are things within Ukraine politically? There is some friction between Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kyiv, and President Zelensky. They haven't met in a year. Is the infrastructure of government holding up?
Yes, it's always, political discussions, internal issues, internal debates. But when we have one big enemy, it's Russia, and we are united against this enemy. And on the international arena, we are all united. We are all Ukrainians, and we will fight for our country. Yes, internally we have debates, but this is not for broader public. It's our internal issues, and I hope we will cooperate with these internal issues.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Yulia Sirko, for sharing this analysis with our audience. Have a good evening and stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.